Good morning. Welcome to our first lecture online. Here I am in my pajamas, chatting with you all. I miss you all, and I look forward to the time that we can chat with one another face to face. But without further ado, let's get into our continuation of childhood nutrition. So we ended up with discussing lead poisoning. And some things that we want to talk about, malnourished children are more vulnerable to lead poisoning. We see that with underrepresented populations, low socioeconomic status, and when someone has a lead poisoning, they could manifest themselves in these symptoms here: the impairment of balance, motor development, and nerve message relay to and from the brain. You have on page 322 in your book, in box 11.4, some things that you can talk with your parents about, or parents of the clients that you're seeing, about ways to avoid lead toxicity, and that's not using lead contaminated water to mix infant formula, letting the tap run for a good 10-15 minutes prior to using it in any sort of food preparation or drinking, and then getting the filters that are available for free through Milwaukee County Health Department. Most importantly is having those lead leads switched out, and that's easier said than done, because that could be at a cost of thousands to some of our underrepresented families already. So we talked about our low socioeconomic background, lack of immunizations, and picas. Those are risk factors for lead poisoning. And if you think about pica, remember that's the craving for non-food items. If kids are putting lead paint contaminated toys in their mouth, or if they are, up against a windowsill that has lead paint and they're, sort of putting their mouth on it, that can increase their risk for lead poisoning. So we see 300,000 children in the U.S. have increased lead concentrations. It's not easily secreted, and it can build up in those organs there and can eventually lead to organ failure and death. And what's happening here is the lead is binding also with our mineral iron. And you all know from the last slides that iron is so important in their neurodevelopment and in behavior and concentration and focus. And that lead is binding with that iron, so it's increasing the children's risk for iron deficiency. And let's quickly review food allergies in kids. Remember, we have our top 8 food allergens that you all know well. We have peanuts, tree nuts, shellfish, fish, wheat, dairy, eggs, soy. So those are our top 8. Those would be good for you to know. And we are very fortunate now with our food labeling system that those top 8 allergens are required on food labels in plain language. So like we've talked about before, you'll see in the bold at the bottom of the ingredients list will contain wheat, eggs, milk, whatever it might be. And remember that the food allergy, that is the whole body response to that protein, versus a food intolerance where we're just having some uncomfortable symptoms. Another piece with the food allergy is it's life-threatening, and in particular, we can see it with peanut allergies, either airborne exposure. So we want to make sure that we're providing that education to families that have that food allergy. Early intervention and early addition to babies' diets, like we looked at that pureed peanut butter as one of the first baby foods that can decrease the risk for developing that peanut allergy. The next slide talks about hyperactivity, and look at that cutie pie there in the screen. That is my Violet. I've talked to you before that she's diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And there is no convincing evidence that sugar causes or worsens hyperactivity, unlike many grandparents may say. But there are some food additives and food colorings that may aggravate the hyperactivity. So your text does have some suggestions